Are you absolutely sure this is Irish enough? They're going to get it's the St. Paddy's Day thing. I need a little more. Start with like a top of the morning to you. Perfect. That's good. I like that. Thank you. Hello, and welcome back to our scripture class. Today, we're going to start right away with a reading from the passages you read for today's class. So, and Jesus went on with his disciples to the villages of Caesarea Philippi, and on the way, he asked his disciples, "Who do men say that I am?" And they told him, "John the Baptist, and others, Elijah, and others, one of the prophets." And he asked them, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter answered him, "You are the Christ." And he charged them to tell no one about him. Hope that reading sounds familiar. It's one of the ones you were assigned for today. It's from Mark chapter 8, verses 27 and 30. And it asks the big question that we're asking in this three-part series where we read the Gospel of Mark cover to cover. Who is Jesus? Here, he poses that question directly to his apostles, and he poses it to them twice. Who do people think I am? Who do you say I am? It's not an accident, by the way, that we're in the middle of chapter 8, which is basically the middle of Mark's entire gospel. It's at this central moment that central question is posed. By the way, I did tell you I'd be introducing different Bibles from usual. This is one I like to read from. I'm using it today, not just because it's green and handsome, and I'm trying to get into the spirit for St. Paddy's Day, but it's got an excellent perk that most Bibles don't, and it's that line right there. The footnotes in this Bible, instead of being a lot of academic commentary about what different manuscripts say or what about a particular Greek word might mean, has a very different kind of commentary. It has a cross-reference from relevant scripture passage to this little book, the Catechism of the Catholic Church. This is basically our faith summarized, the core parts of what it is we believe as Catholic Christians, all in one handy-dandy, very compressed, very dense reference text. Everything we believe being based in scripture, it's relatively straightforward to produce a Bible where all the footnotes from there that go back to scripture are instead footnotes to the passages in their original context. It's a really cool toy if you want to spend time interpreting scripture as the basis of our faith and as the basis of Catholic theology. It's called the Didache Bible. But anyway, back to our question. Who do you say that I am? The reason we're taking the time to start by reading whole Gospels cover to cover instead of selecting key passages the way you may be used to from church or from previous religion classes is because we need to wrap our head around who Jesus actually is. And there's going to be a lot of clues to help us come to a clear answer about that. And that's part of the work you're going to be doing today, is helping yourself come to a clear answer about who Jesus is, at least in the mind of Mark the evangelist who's writing this gospel. If you're only used to reading a snippet here and a passage there and hearing a short reading on Sunday, but not on taking all these parts and putting them together, then I hope you're getting something new out of reading the gospel, out of seeing Jesus developed as one character from beginning to end. And here, we're right at the middle. So, I'm not going to talk much today. I'm not going to give you much that's new. We did some of that in our live stream last class, and we'll do a little more today. Instead, I'm going to give you 2 exercises that I need you to complete. I'm going to give you between 5 and 10 minutes for each. Let's say 10 minutes for each, so you can do a really good job. So 20 minutes after this video, we'll start the live stream. We'll have about half an hour to go over the work you do. Here are your 2 assignments. First, you are going to make a list for me. You're going to make it with 3 columns. I don't care if you do it on paper or on a word processor, but here's what you need. First, you are going to list all of the characters or groups who have interacted with Jesus in the Gospels, both in Mark 1 through 5 and especially in Mark 6 through 10. So the Pharisees might be one group, the disciples might be one group, individual people like, say, Levi or Peter, you could pull them out of the disciples and do them as an individual. Don't forget demons, men possessed by demons. You're going to pull out those. And for each one, I need you to tell me 2 things. These are what your other 2 columns are for. How do they act towards Jesus? And who do they think he is? Please note that those are slightly different things. You'll get at least one group that thinks that Jesus is very high and mighty but still doesn't like him, and another group that thinks he's nobody, etc. How do they treat him? With respect, with disdain, with suspicion, with love? And who do they think he is? What rank or idea or role do they assign to him? That's your first exercise. Your second exercise is to try to explain to me who the evangelist Mark thinks Jesus is, based on one particular piece of evidence. There are others we could look at, but this is the one we're going to do today. In the readings you did for today, so just Mark 6 through 10, just those 5 more recent chapters, what I need you to do is find me all the Old Testament references you see. Every time a story bears a striking resemblance to an Old Testament story we've read, or there's a key word or phrase that seems to repeat an Old Testament story or phrase, I want you to write down Mark 6:16 through 26. I'm making that up. I don't even know if that's one story or 2. Seems to refer back to, I don't know, let's make up another one, 2 Samuel 12. I don't know if you read that one. And then give me a word or 2 about what each one's about. In this story, Jesus does X, which is similar to to say David doing Y in this other book. That's what I'm looking for. These verses in Mark refer to this book and chapter in the Old Testament, and here's the nature of the similarity. Someone does the exact same thing, or the very similar circumstances come up, or the same kind of miracle is performed. Those are the sorts of things you're going to show me. However, you're going to take it a step further. You're not just going to show me New Testament looks like the Old. You're going to tell me one more thing for every similarity you can find. You're going to tell me, what's the point? Why does Mark take the time to emphasize this similarity? He's not doing it on accident. Or why does Jesus deliberately put himself in the place to be like this particular Old Testament scenario? Because sometimes he's very clearly setting it up. What is it trying to teach us about Jesus? So if this passage in Mark resembles this passage from the Old Testament, they're similar in this way, cool, great. The point is blank. The story is trying to show us that Jesus is blank. That's what I need from you. Now, each of those I want you to spend about 10 minutes on. Don't panic if you don't finish. You do need to be ready for us to get together and do our live stream in about 20 minutes. If you want to work on paper, that's fine. If you want to work on your computer, that's fine. Whatever gets you to get through that information quickly. What we're going to do for our live stream session is spend a lot of time taking these 2 different sources of evidence and putting them together and try to figure out, who is this Jesus guy, according to the other characters in the Gospels and according to the Gospel author himself. So, you got 2 assignments: characters, how they treat Jesus, what they think of him; New Testament passages that are similar to Old Testament passages, and what you think the point is of each non-coincidental similarity. This is a good time for me to pause and assign your homework for tonight. You will be reading Mark chapters 11 through 16. It's the remainder of Mark's Gospel. Yes, it's 6 chapters instead of 5, but I'm sure you can handle that. You're getting pretty good at this by now. And again, you'll read, summarize, outline, and post a comment on the next video to be prepared for next class's homework assignment. I look forward to talking over these stories and these kind of evidence with you in our live stream. I look forward to seeing you again in our next class. Thank you so much for your time. Happy St. Patrick's Day. God bless.